I should have done more research, so I had thinky thoughts to say, cause I don't have lots of thinky thoughts on this, and I wanted more thinky thoughts than I have. Harumph. Hello to the internet. So my name's Craig Montgomery, and we're here to talk about who even am I? Trying out new space, I think this is a little bit more fun. I really like this, I don't know how to present this, but I really like this drape background thing. This is a nice tapestry that my best friend bought me, and it's really pretty and I love it. So if you checked out my previous video, I'm going to be talking about personal identity, self-care for the most part. I want to start a segment called Work That Vocabulary. I guess that should be like work, 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 work. I shouldn't snap, I don't know, that's weird. So yeah, there's basically what I want to do is I want to start talking about the types of words and things that you need to be able to describe the stuff that's going on inside your body in order to be able to like express those emotions and move through them and be able to deal with them. Just to give tiny little insights into things to start that discussion again. If there are any things that you'd like me to do some research on and talk about, let me know, because I want to talk about the things you want to hear me talk about. It can be really terrifying to open up and talk honestly about what's going on inside of you. We spend a lot of time building images, and smoke and mirrors is a term I've heard pretty frequently about what it means to kind of like put up that mask to protect your inner self from other people. But my favorite moments in life have been when it's two very vulnerable, raw people actually connecting. Those moments are so powerful and so much fun. And I've noticed that in those situations where I have a person that I can be vulnerable with like that, it makes it so much easier to feel safe with them, to have fun and be silly and lighthearted, because you know that they respect you and that they're going to take care of you if you do need to get vulnerable. There's also a book, I'm pretty sure it's like an academic book, where the kind of concept of emotional intelligence originated. I am not very privy to the author's name, and I don't think I've actually read it. I may have read it in college because I do remember studying about this, but I will do some research and credit that in the section below. Just putting what it is as a link if anyone's interested, and actually doing a little bit more thorough reading on the entire concept of what it means to be emotionally intelligent. I'm sure there's tons of really great information about the concept and that, because he did, you know, write the like theory for it. I should have memorized this before. I'm gonna read this like this. You can probably still see my thing. Emotional intelligence is defined as the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. I don't really like that control part, and I'll talk about that in a second. So, just to kind of unpack the definition, the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions. I think the aware is pretty common sense, you know, just making sure that you understand I'm feeling this because of this. That's not always extremely easy to understand. Sometimes it can be confusing about how you respond, so it's just the ability to actually be able to put words to those experiences, and to control your emotions. I guess in the context of controlling how you respond to your emotions is somewhat appropriate, but I don't think it's really a good idea ever to try and control your emotional response to something, just because I feel like that typically leads down bad roads. It makes bad jujus. It's a much more effective path to accept that you had this emotional response to a situation. So let's say that your friend says something and it hurts your feelings. It's much more effective to say, hey, that hurt my feelings, you know, talking to yourself, and then to assess, is it really something that I'm being sensitive about and that I can soothe myself, Or is this something that I'm actually offended by, and I want this person to recognize that, to, you know, respect my integrity, and to move towards them and say like, hey, that actually hurt my feelings, and I want you to know that, and see how they respond. So I would say like controlling your response instead of just being like super reactive and they say it and you're super offended, like, oh my god, how dare you say that to me, which can be abrasive and not a very empathetic way to approach someone. And so that also kind of goes into expressing your emotions. So the being able to approach your friend and to say to them, hey, I feel this way about the way that you treated me. Just having the right words, you know, being able to approach that with kindness in a way that respects yourself but also respects them. And so that's, you know, managing interpersonal relationships. It can be hard and messy because sometimes it gets confusing and you choose respecting the other person more to try and preserve that relationship, or you respect yourself more to try and hold on to your integrity, and you end up disregarding the other person, which can be damaging to that relationship. So that moment, that crosshair of conflict is, I guess, what I feel like is most important with emotional intelligence, is learning how to navigate that in relationships. And choosing happiness, just deciding to, one, be okay and accept that the situation is the way that it is, and learning how to make the best of that, and just knowing that I have that capability. I can say, all right, these are my circumstances. It may not have been the way that I wanted it to go, but it's what we got, and I'm gonna do what I can with that now. So the concept that was most effective for me in kind of really incorporating what it means to be emotionally intelligent in my life, and, you know, how to move through the world with that as a frame of mind, is a concept that's really popular in Buddhist thought. I was exposed to it by Pema Chodron in The Places That Scare You, which is an incredible book. I highly suggest it. She's an incredibly important thinker. She's just so powerful and has really good words to describe things that just help you relate. So go check it out. But she talks about the fact that emotions don't define you. That they're more just experiences that you're going through. It's never going to last, it's never permanent, and you don't have to define yourself by the way that you're feeling, basically. And the way that I've heard it described, and I think she actually described it in the book this way too, is if you imagine yourself as a rock, and the rock is in the middle of a river, the water that is flowing through the river would be the emotions. So you are there and the emotions are happening around you, and they're always going to pass. And so just kind of holding onto that framework and realizing that not everything is like permanent really helps when things are feeling too big. And that's just like super beneficial, and like not overreacting to things, and like being able to give yourself the space to feel something and not necessarily feel like you have to take action on it immediately, because you know that it's going to pass. So I think that that is a really important practice, and a really big reason of why I think it's important to be cognizant of what emotional intelligence is. And you know, I think it's just like any other intelligence. We work on these things, they're skill sets. It's not something you're born with, it's not something that's innate. People might be better at certain things naturally, but we can all work to get better at the things that we feel like we're lacking in. It's really important to do that work and look inside and feel what you need to feel. Drowning it out or numbing it is really just gonna like lower your quality of life in other areas. So talking about emotions can be kind of weird because it's like makes you feel very vulnerable. Lots of times you have things that you don't really maybe want to assess or look at. I know there's been times in my life where I'm like, I don't really feel like dealing with that right now. That being said, you really can only put things off for so long, because I'm a pretty firm believer that emotions hold place in your body. Like you feel things, you know, we think of the way that we see the world as a very in your head experience, something that's going on in your mind. But I think that your body actually does store quite a bit of like memory, even if it's just sensory, that those experiences that you're having and trying to like avoid are going to express themselves through your body. And I think it can get really confusing when you're like kind of trying to push down a lot of different experiences that you don't feel like dealing with right now to understand and interpret what you're feeling about a new situation, because you still have all this funk going on in your body from previous things that you kind of have pushed aside. So keeping up that like sort of regular, it's like exercise, you know, this is the mental, emotional side of taking care of your body in the way that, you know, the physical side, like going to the gym or exercising or walking or whatever you need to do to keep in shape, you need to keep your emotional side in shape as well. It's kind of our responsibility to do that in terms of like how we can bring our best selves to the other people in our lives. It gives us more space to love them better and to make sure that we can be there to support them. And even if it's just also in a more selfish context, to be more in touch with your own needs so that you can present those to other people, because no one else can tell you what you want or what you need. But if you're also like super confused about what you want and need, you can ask for those things and then you just end up unhappy. But building that vocabulary, giving yourself the ability to say those things in a space where you feel like it's safe to be vulnerable is really important. So that's kind of what I have to say about emotional intelligence. Yeah. I'd love to talk to you about it. If you have any comments or questions, comment down below. If you like what I'm doing so far, subscribe. If you don't, also let me know and I'll see what I can do with that constructive criticism. And like the video if you liked it. And you know, as always, take care of yourself.
Push.